Yeah,
order.
okay, I've had. All right. Mr. Tracy, can you call roll, please?
Mark Radisky.
Here.
Lily Grassi.
Here.
Scott Fisher. Here. Tom Heck. Here. John Carr.
Here.
Do we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public or community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section on the agenda. I make a motion to appoint Belinda Grassi as treasurer pro tempore.
A second.
Thank you. Ms. Pusey, can you call the roll?
Lori Kaminsky.
Aye.
Lily Grassi.
Aye.
Scott Fisher.
Aye.
Tom Heck. Aye. John Carr.
Aye.
Motion carried. I make a motion to approve November 16th, 2023 and December 4th, 2023 board minutes.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hack. Any discussion? All right, Mr. Patrizi, can you call the roll?
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Lori Kaminsky.
Aye.
Lily Grassi.
Aye.
Scott Fisher.
Aye.
Tom Heck. Aye.
And motion carried. That brings us to special reports.
Thank you. We have two tonight. First presenting is Mr. John Remus. Kind of update the board on our technology and cybersecurity portfolio.
I was asked to give a report on the status of our cybersecurity, where we are as a district. And we've got a couple slides to show you. If I say a few things that don't make sense, feel free, and I'll try to unnerve it as much as I can. So, all staff members have multi-factor force on any login that has any kind of sensitive data, meaning there's more than one way that they have to authenticate that they are who they are. So that helps in case somebody was to get a hold of a password, they still can't get into the account. Any remote connection like a vendor or anything like that has the same thing. They have multi-factor authentication, and that's forced. And then we'll start with right at the top where all the data comes into the district and out of the district is a firewall. That's housed at our ITC, our internet provider. It's actually two firewalls running. One's in a passive mode, which means if one of them wants to fail, the other one automatically kicks in. So we'll always have some kind of firewall protection. And aside from just basic rules, it's a really smart firewall. It looks for any type of traffic that doesn't look correct from the request. So say you're going out to a website and some other traffic's coming in and it doesn't look right, it stops it. And it's constantly scanning for any kind of virus, malware, anything like that. And we're pretty good. We're pretty protected by that firewall. And on all the computers we have what's called SOCIS XDR, which is an extended detection and response. It basically does the same thing as a firewall does. If it finds something on that computer that is not right, it shuts it off. It blocks it so it can't spread across the network, and then we get notified right away. It's also an antivirus, anti-malware, anti-ransomware. It looks for all that stuff and blocks it. Next slide. So here's some of the other things that we're doing. Only the tech department and food service director has any kind of local administrative access to the computers. So nobody can install anything except for us. It just won't let it. Food service only has on her terminals because she's got things that she needs to do, and she has to have admin access. All of our Google data that's stored in Google Drive, emails, all that stuff gets backed up to a company called SysCloud. And it's not part of our network, it's totally separate, so in case somebody's account did somehow get hacked, they couldn't have access to that. And the data's all encrypted, and our local backups for our local servers, we back those up in 2 different locations, and those are encrypted also. And I have been looking into an off-site company to store them, and our backup software that we use has just recently made an update, and they have an add-on piece of software that can make that backup file immutable, which means it can never be altered no matter what. That's, as of right now, they say there's no way to alter it, but you know, people come up with ways to find stuff. All of our computers, all the security patches, we have that automated. So anytime a security patch comes out, it's being sent out to them. And we are compliant with all the insurance requirements that they're asking for now, you know, until they ask for more. And we purchased a piece of software called Novi4, and it's a training software. We have the ability to send out emails to the staff, see who clicks, that kind of thing, and then push out security training. So we haven't started the training yet, but we did a couple of campaigns with some fake emails. Pretty interesting.
I'm good at that, aren't I? I always forward it to you, and I'm like, I think they're fishing. And you always are like, nice job.
Congratulations, Melissa.
And, you know, it's a nonstop thing. We have to just keep looking at ways to protect ourselves, and it's always going to be ongoing. And so we're always looking at new things, and it's a lot of work, but you know, we're just keep pushing on. Any questions on any of that? Okay, so that's all I have.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
So I think before we go, I think it's fair to mention and point out the fact that we're not using the old smartboard anymore. Mr. Remmer kind of helped us upgrade some of our technology and presentation space. This is a demonstration of a flat panel interactive touchscreen that can be used also as a whiteboard in terms of a learning space as well. And then we are actually projecting to this wirelessly, and so there isn't that bulky computer back there anymore. It's a wireless casting projection. So in terms of a learning, operational learning space, this has a lot of potential, and it's something we're excited to kind of have and put in more classrooms as we move out and kind of move around for our display technology. So it's kind of fitting that he presented tonight, and it's the first time we kind of got this one up and running in this space. So it's,
Yeah, and this is the device I spoke about the last time I talked to you guys about replacing the smart boards and the projectors with that.
So we're lucky this evening.
yes.
You know, I do have one question. I know Dr. Martino reached out to you, and just in case anybody else was wondering, there was a question about Chromebook insurance. So just in case anybody else is thinking or wondering about that, can you kind of talk about
Sure.
good idea, bad idea?
Well, it's a little of both. So we're in a little conundrum. I've spoken to a lot of different insurance companies, and there was one at the beginning of the year that I got a little excited about. Then I talked to a few of the schools that are using it. The way most of them work is if the student breaks the device, the parent needs to fill out the claim. That's where the problem comes into play. The 2 school districts that I spoke to that had the insurance said it's rare that the parents fill out the claim. So they have to do it. They have to do the work to fill out the claim, to box the thing up, to send it out to them, keep track of it. It's just a lot more manpower on our end at this point. So this is something I was going to speak to Chris about, try to figure out a plan moving forward. We don't like telling parents that they got a fee to pay when the kid breaks the Chromebook.
So the agreement's really between the parent and the company, not the district and the company.
Right. So that's kind of a problem. How do we fix that? And we're running thin now.
When you work with an insurance company, it's a challenge too, because you're sending them out, so your turnaround time is also longer. We repair them in-house, so we get them and we turn them around rather quickly to get them back to students when you do send them out. Or if you were to be the vendor for the insurance company, you have to have additional certifications with the device carrier and all that. It can be a challenge. It's something that we started to look into at the beginning of the summer, even the option of self-insuring and what that would look like, to find that price point. And it really is kind of like, you have to look at the data, the number of claims you have every year, where those claims come from, to kind of set that price, because you don't want to be at a point where, I've even seen insurance companies, in a previous district, we had insurance and we would send them out, but eventually the insurance companies said, we're going to drop this student because they've broken it 3 times, and that's, so kind of having those fixed sets as to how much your insurance lasts. So it's not as easy as everyone kind of thinks. It's nice to have that insurance. It really does have a benefit to it, but it is really working through the details, because the insurance companies are in it to make money for themselves, and not necessarily that silver lining that we always hope.
Thank you.
So next up tonight, we have Dr. Malak. We're really excited about this presentation. One of the things I think that her department does awesome in kind of working with us is our college and career readiness programming, the opportunities we provide students that are unique to Riverside, and even the ones where she continues to go. It's really kind of neat and exciting. If you can't tell by this, she has a passion for this, and you're just not listening, because I'll tell you, it's amazing. And she's not yelling at you, she's just excited.
That is fair. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing with the college and career readiness programming. One of the things that I wanted to point out and make sure that people understand, and I keep repeating this, is that graduating from high school is no longer what graduating from high school used to be. It isn't just pass your classes, we give you a diploma, and you move on and do your thing. Students are required to complete different, I call it 3 buckets, in order to get their diploma now. So the first bucket is completing the course requirements, and this is what we all know about or remember high school as. You have to earn 23 credits, so it means passing your classes, your academics. The state only requires 20 credits. Riverside does require 23, so our standards are a little bit higher than the state standards. The second bucket that students have to check is they have to demonstrate competency. And to demonstrate competency, the state says there are multiple ways that you can do this. You can pass the ELA test, the ELA 2 test, I should say, which 10th graders take, and the Algebra 1 test. So both of those are state tests. They take Algebra 1 in 9th grade. Or, because they acknowledge that not everyone is a good test taker, you can complete 2 career-focused activities, or you can complete a CCP class, which is a College Credit Plus course, or you can enlist in the military. So those are the 4 ways that students can demonstrate competency. They have to do one of those things. One of the ways that we, as a district, can help them demonstrate competency is to offer CCP classes. Now, kids go to Lake Erie, they go to Lakeland, they can essentially go anywhere. We also offer some classes here on campus, so students have access to those courses. Enlisting in the military means you're enlisted. It's not just, hey, I'm going to sign up, but you've taken the test, you've signed the paperwork, you're enlisted after graduation. And then the 2 career-focused activities are where we can offer the opportunity for students to earn the Ohio Means Job Readiness Seal. We can offer work-based learning opportunities, and we can also offer the opportunity for students to earn what's called a 12-point credential. And a 12-point credential is a series of, sometimes it's exams, sometimes it's small modules of learning that that are things that are recognized by specific industries. There are 13 career pathways that the state recognizes, and each of those pathways has ways that you can earn these credentials. So you can earn points in one pathway, 12 points in one pathway, and that then demonstrates, that's one way to demonstrate competency. And then the last bucket that kids have to hit is they have to earn 2 graduation seals. There are 9 state-defined seals, and they have to earn 1 from that category. And then there are 3 locally defined seals. And they can earn one from there, or they can do 2 state ones, but they cannot do 2 local seals. Anybody who's watching this or hears this and is interested in diving into these requirements, I put the link on this slide, so it'll take you straight to the Riverside website that goes into more detail about graduation requirements. The reason I opened with this is because I think it's important to understand that there's a lot more, again, to graduation than just passing your classes and getting your diploma. So there's a lot more that has to be done by students, and by virtue of students needing to do more, there's more for us to do. Our college and career readiness programming in 2019 looked like this. So we had sophomore shadow, and these were great things, please don't misunderstand that. We had sophomore shadow in 10th grade. In 11th grade, the kids can go to Auburn Career Center, and then we have what's called junior experience. And then in 12th grade, we had the senior project, and we had a college and career fair. That's where we were 4 years ago. Here's where we are now with our college and career readiness program. In the elementary, and I started, you probably can't see it too far away, but we are looking to implement at the elementary level some interactive career exploration for our primary students and our 5th graders. In 6th grade, we have implemented a career exploration class that is mandatory for all students, and students also earn micro-credentials. Micro-credentials, again, are industry-recognized credentials that we're able to teach to our students, and they actually earn a certificate. So in 6th grade, they do CPR, and that's a micro-credential. So Auburn Career Center will come in and help with that. In 7th grade, again, the students earn micro-credentials there. Auburn career students come in, they talk to our middle school students about different careers that the micro-credential can be used in. So for example, one year we did tape and rule, which is a measurement unit, very applicable in manufacturing, in science fields and engineering fields. So the Auburn students would come in, they work with our students, they go back to Auburn, our students have materials and equipment to use from Auburn, and they're able to earn this micro-credential. We're also looking at putting in a day of learning and or a field trip through for 7th graders, because they don't really have a lot of career exploration experience in that grade level. In 8th grade, we've implemented the Riverside Ready class. That's a half-credit course for career exploration, as well as how to navigate the high school experience. So it's a little bit of get ready to be a high schooler and a little bit of what do you think you want to do kind of stuff. That's a semester class that all of our 8th graders take. And again, we offer micro-credentials in 8th grade. 9th grade, we're looking to put in a Future Forward Fair, which won't be a traditional college and career readiness, because 9th graders aren't college or career ready, nor are they even sometimes thinking in that vein. So we want to put some things into place or offer an experience to them where they just start looking at what am I interested in, where do my talents lie, and where do I think I want to go. So we're working on that opportunity for 9th graders, because that was an area that we feel like there's still a little bit of a gap. In 10th grade, we now have a career-based intervention class, which is a very targeted class for students who are struggling, sometimes academically, and are a little bit at risk, where we try to intervene with them in academics and with helping them pick a career path. We have a sophomore shadow experience still, and we also have implemented work-based learning credit, where students, if they have a full-time job and provide the documentation, they're able to earn credit for holding down a job outside of school. In 11th grade, we start our career electives, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what those are in just a minute. Students also have the opportunity to go to Auburn Career Center. We have the junior experience, which is a work-based experience outside of school. And all of our students are earning the Ohio Means Jobs Readiness Seal in 11th grade English, which is one of those graduation requirements. That allows them to hit that third bucket where they get a seal. Okay, so we've embedded that into our curriculum to help our students move towards graduation. And then in 12th grade, graduation year, where the kids have the opportunity to take career electives, they have the opportunity to do senior project, which is the last 3 weeks of their senior year. They can be in a work-based placement, and then they do presentations at the end of the year. We are, in our senior English classes, teaching student leadership and the Lean Six Sigma credentials, which if you're in manufacturing or some of the business world, you know the Lean Six Sigma protocols. It's a design thinking protocol. Those are the student leadership and Lean Six Sigma are both 3-point credentials that are evident in every career path. So just by taking senior English, our students are earning 6 industry credentials. Okay? Not all kids take senior English. Some of them are in AP, some of them are taking Lakeland classes, or college classes. But any student that takes English 4 at Riverside is earning 6 industry credentials that are recognized in every career pathway the state offers. And then finally, last year we started, and I foresee us continuing, a senior-only hiring fair. And rather than opening it up and allowing kids to just wander around, which we all know is kind of just a, hey, I'm a senior and I don't want to go to class kind of thing, we targeted a specific group of kids that did not, and I should say Dr. Bassich was instrumental in making this happen, targeted a specific group of kids that we knew did not have a plan after graduation, brought in businesses, and just those students came down. So I think it was maybe 35 to 40 students. It was unbelievable. They did right there interviews, you know what I mean? Kids were made appointments to go do interviews. They were filling out applications. They were talking about jobs. It was a really exciting thing to see happen. And we had a couple of them get employment that day, didn't we? So that's something that we've implemented. Again, it was targeted very specifically to a group of students who needed that support for after graduation. So the career electives are something that we're building that I think is a little bit unique to Riverside. So and I've said this to you all before, and I will continue to say it. If career programming and exploration is good for one set of kids, why is it not good for all kids? So we are trying to build programming here at Riverside that appeals to all students. So they get an experience before they leave us, whether you are going straight into the workforce or you are college bound, 2-year college bound, 4-year college bound, or going to a trade school or an Auburn program. We want you to have a taste of what it is you think you want to do. Now we say before you are stuck in a job you hate or spending $30,000 a year to realize you hate it. So that's what we're trying to do, is give kids some experience. So we've built some courses that are allowing kids to earn those 12-point credentials. And so welding, everybody knows about our welding program. That's the only program that we offer that is a full year half-day program that is similar to what Auburn Career Center does. And that's because when we built this program, Mr. Blank said to me, they have to be in there a half day. They have to have that time in the welding booths in order to earn these certifications. The rest of these programs or courses that I'm going to talk about are just one elective course. So we are not trying to be Auburn. We are not in competition with Auburn. These are not 2-year programs. Kids do not spend a half a day in any of these classes. These are just electives that we are able to offer in a regular public high school that will allow students to get an experience in the career that they're interested in and earn 12-point credential. So the welding lab, and this is how we build classes here, which is why you're kind of seeing it like this. I always start with what's the course and the duration, what is the core curriculum and the teacher going to be for the course, and what you're going to find is that we don't always have to have the teacher necessarily match what the career path is. And you're going to see some interesting things matched up here. What's most important is that the teacher is passionate about what they're teaching and wants to be a part of building this, because this is all new. And so when we started this, it makes teachers a little twitchy because there's no defined way to look at these classes, but it typically ends up being a really fun class. And I will tell you about our healthcare one, because that was the one we kind of finished building today, but, so welding, they're earning 12 points in welding certifications, and obviously their engagement is hands-on work in the welding lab. All of these classes, the students will, they have to earn at least 6, because if they earn 6 in the elective course, then they've got 12, because I got them 6 in English, and now I'm getting them 6. A lot of these will get them 12 also, and then they also have to have an engagement piece. I want them doing something in the field that gives them a taste of what they're going to do. So our business, marketing, and finance class is the principles of business. It's a full year, started in fall of 21. Marketing and finance is the core curriculum. Business teacher, Mr. Ross, teaches that. And those students earn the Rise Up Retail Industry Fundamentals or the Business of Retail credentials. Each of those are 6 points, okay? And their engagement is they run the school store, printing the t-shirts and the other apparel. So that class runs our school store. We just got an embroidery machine, so they're getting ready to expand what they're able to do up there, which is very exciting, but they are busy all the time doing all that. Our advanced manufacturing class hits the manufacturing pathway. The core curriculum is robotics and engineering. We have a tech teacher teaching this class, and it happens to be a female, which I find to be kind of exciting that our advanced manufacturing class is taught by a female teacher who has a passion for the robotics and the engineering. The credentials that they earn are 3M protection, CPR, Stop the Bleed, OSHA. We're also looking to make this class a pre-apprenticeship class. So through a grant process, we're looking to align with AWT, which has an established apprenticeship program. If we make this course a pre-apprenticeship, the students will automatically earn those 12 points. We're looking for the engagement piece to be some equipment, some makerspace and Fab Lab equipment that we are going to purchase, a laser printer engraver, robotic arm. We already bought the VR headsets for learning content. So some different things to put in there so that they will get some experience with equipment that they will actually be exposed to on a shop floor. Our construction class, Principles of Construction, is a full year. We started that last spring. This is math and construction together. The students are earning 2 credits, and a math teacher is teaching our construction class. It's a construction pre-apprenticeship course aligned with Cleveland Construction, and they are doing district projects and site visits is their engagement piece. In the healthcare pathway, this is the one we're starting this year. They're going to start in January with their site visits. So this is a full year class. The core curriculum is anatomy and physiology, and we have a science teacher, Mrs. Ross, and yes, they are married, is teaching the principles of healthcare, or the introduction to healthcare class. She is doing CPR, Stop the Bleed, bloodborne pathogens, customer service, and certified secure computer user, which is something necessary for work in the healthcare field on computers. But we have built a partnership with UH, which will allow our students to, they'll do a couple of field trips, get the full scope of what a hospital system looks like, and then they're going to pick a department, and they will spend 8 full days working in that department over the course of the semester, gaining experience and understanding of what it is that they think they like. UH has been phenomenal in what they're willing to do to help us and build this class and what they want to do with students. So this is the first year that we're running this one full on, and it has the potential to be very, very cool. Mrs. Ross said that the students that are in there are super excited to go, so we'll start that in January. Public service or human services and law and public safety. We have a public service and safety class that runs for a full year. Communications is the core curriculum. We're looking to make this a pre-apprenticeship aligned to Auburn Career Center's telecommunications class. Students are gaining experience with the fire department, the police department, or United Way if they are looking to go into a field that is more community-based organization and a nonprofit, so we've partnered with the United Way. They're taking field trips working with speakers and also doing on-site visits. And so, the fire department is building some activities for them to do at the fire station. Police department's doing the same thing, and United Way is working with them and helping them to understand the nonprofit world. We're starting a course for arts and communication, full year. It's going to be a theater 2. That will be one of our English teachers, so that's a course we're getting ready to build. Their engagement will be with the fall play and the spring musical. We're getting ready to start an education and training course. That's in child development and in adult learning. Interestingly enough, foreign language teachers can teach child development, and we had one that had a little hole in their schedule. So we do have a foreign language teacher who's going to teach one period of this career elective. Still working on which credential points we're going to offer, but their engagement will be schools within our district, so maybe we can start to build some teachers, but we're also going to look at that idea of adult programs. A lot of human services jobs need people who understand how to teach adults, not just teach students. So we're going to have them do some work in that field also. And then finally, we're working on IT. That's also a full year. We will have a tech teacher. That one's pretty standard. We're looking at CompTIA and IT fundamentals as a 6 points, and we're still working out the engagement piece. So those ones are on the radar. Where we have to go, and that we'll start to build probably next year, the pathways we haven't addressed, is agriculture and environmental systems and hospitality and tourism. I have an idea of how to pair those together. I don't need to bog anybody down with that, and it's going to make some teacher, I don't know who it is yet, probably really twitchy because it's a really outside the box class, but I think it would be really fun for the students to dig into the geography and history of Lake County and use that as the basis. We got a lot of ag stuff that goes on here, a lot of environmental stuff with the lake, and a lot of tourism stuff that goes on in this area. So I feel like we could build a really cool class and program around the geography and history of Lake County. And then transportation and engineering, those will be on my radar for next year. Haven't really gotten around to thinking through how we're going to let kids drive semis through the parking lot or things of that nature. I'm kidding. That was a joke. So please don't. I don't want anybody writing down, Riverside's going to let.
Just school bus.
Yeah, kids can drive semis through the parking lot. But those will be where we turn our focus next year. And then we will be rounded out for hitting all of the pathways and allowing students to have those experiences again before they leave us. So I think that was it. Yes, that's it.
Thank you. That's so exciting.
It is, it's very exciting. It's very fun. It's fun work. It is.
That's what we should be doing.
It's super cool. Any questions regarding it?
I was just going to say, there's a lot of districts. I presented a couple of times, one time at the ESC of Northeast Ohio, where I had a couple of schools reach out and say, hey, can you come and help us understand how to do this in our buildings? This is the push from the state. The career tech schools, they can't handle everything. They're very good at what they do, and I work very closely with Auburn. So again, I'm going to say, we aren't trying to become Auburn. That's not what we're trying to do. We're never going to have an automotive lab. You know what I mean? We're never going to be able to teach HVAC like they do in Auburn. There are things, and I don't want to. That's not what our purpose is. But boy, if we can offer some of those options to kids to give them more information to make better informed decisions for themselves after they graduate, and it's good for all of them. I can't stress that enough. It's not just good for one pocket of kids, it's good for all kids to have that knowledge base. So you can see, these guys back here are probably shooting daggers into my back. I'll just keep talking. So I'm done.
Yeah, I was going to make the observation. I think that we have been on the cutting edge with the welding lab, right? That started at least, 4 years ago? At least 3, maybe 4. And trying to incorporate different alternatives and different pathways for our students. I mean, we've been on the cutting edge, and you continue to be on the cutting edge. So that's really, really terrific.
I think we've had some other conversations. They're really great things to come. I mean, they're really exciting and really kind of, it's kind of a stay tuned. but it's gonna be great, and you're gonna see even more, unique, cutting-edge things coming out of Riverside. That's amazing, and out of their department, so it's awesome, and it's fun to brag about.
For sure. There's a plan how to put that Riverside food truck into a.
I'm working on that. That's what I want, the Riverside food truck. I really do.
He does.
I don't know how we're gonna work that in, but that is
Yeah.
something that
I'm not opposed to it, I just haven't gotten there
Maybe
yet.
transportation
Food service.
and hospitality.
I was gonna say, if I could put transportation and food together, then perhaps we can create a pathway.
It'd be awesome. But so we've got some really kind of unique, fun ideas, and it's fun to kind of just sit and brainstorm, and then have something come out of it that really does turn into a class, and kids love, and that's a good time.
I mean, interestingly, kids don't really even realize how many jobs are out there, so this is helpful.
A big part of this is exposure. So when I went to UH and pitched the idea to them, it was, I don't want a doctor coming out and talking to kids. I want to expose them to UH as a system. You know what I mean? I want them to know an entry-level position. I want them to know if you go to college, odds are they'll pay for it too if you start at an entry-level position. Or you can be a financial person and go in, into the hospital system. So that is really about understanding, showing them what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and we need to help them see what's out there.
And I said it on the meeting at UH, I would tell you that group of people who kind of work from UH standpoint saw it as a recruiting session for their system. And they said, well, we can get employees out of this and kind of get them from the beginning and share with them all of our perks, and we'll pay for your education, we'll pay for you to go back and continue. So these students are going to meet people who have kind of started at the bottom and worked their way up, and they've got some real success stories, and we can have more of it. So it's a really neat program that kind of kicked its way off, and it's evolving into something that's it's amazing.
Nothing else in special reports?
That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will reserve one for the end.
Okay. That brings us to old business. We had a few items here. Mr. Official, you had discussion about improvements and renovations.
Just wanted to look at the, as we're into improvements and renovations now, just wanted to look at a little bit of a history, know where we were, where we came from, where we are, and where we're headed. So just an overview. I've been on the board 2 years, and so I wasn't here before that. And so I was just looking at, is there any history going back 10, 11 years, 12 years, whatever it might be, of any improvements and renovations that we've done that we don't have to do today? And so I think it's a quick question, because I think I heard in the Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Hackley said that over about 12 years we had not really done a lot of improvements in the district. But I was just bringing it up to, hopefully I'm not missing anything. Have there been things that we've done?
So I think what I was referring to in the Buildings and Grounds is we hadn't done anything at the campus.
Okay.
So other than work on, we did do some upgrades to the auditorium, but by and large, I mean, we've maintained it well. I think the school looks great, but we have not gone beyond more or less maintenance and repairs, leaks here and there and what have you. So we have not invested capital money into the campus. But I mean, obviously the new schools, I mean, before your time, we had 4 extra elementary schools. And often they were a challenge. Quite frankly, they were definitely a challenge. And when we were able to bring the 2 new schools online, we take 4 elementary schools offline. And so we have had improvements in that regard.
And just so everyone knows, 38, no small number, $38 million of improvements, 2 new schools, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, great success there, right?
Yep. So,
I would say some of the other improvements that we've made that you don't necessarily classroom furniture, things that we can move if we decided to do some sort of other project. So we did replace classroom furniture with some of the movable furniture that you saw in different classes for teaching and learning. Technology upgrades, of course, kind of throughout the district, infrastructure, wireless, that sort of stuff, as well as kind of looking at some smaller kind of things that media center spaces. We've upgraded some of those and changed some of the functionality of them. But again, all of this is somewhat movable. So if we move to a new facility, we can move those things in and out. But in terms of permanent structure type things, it's really been, focused on warm, safe, and dry, and 2 new buildings.
Well, and truly, the years prior to the new buildings opening, it really was a constant. There was never PI money left any year, because we were always just trying to maintain those buildings that were really failing. I mean, the amount of roof work we probably did on places like Leroy and Haddon, just trying to keep, oh my gosh, trying to keep them, to your point, warm, safe, and dry. It was a serious challenge.
So now we come to the present, and of course, we're looking at doing improvements and renovations, and we just had Bialowski's report, and they state $98 million on an a la carte basis. And if anyone did present or watched the presentation that was put up online, one of the questions that I had asked them was, if your life depended on it, how would you go about doing this at 70%, basically 100 million, let's say 70 million? And they didn't get in depth on that, but one thing they did say is you could start to couple jobs so that you're not a la carting and paying all for this job, all for this job, all for this job. If you can put them together, of course, in an aggregate, you're going to pay a little bit less. And so, that's one idea. And then we look at the possibility of other alternatives. And I've had 47 years of construction experience, 45 years in business. And as I look at the roofing, I look at an opportunity to save at least $1 million there, looking at other opportunities. So as we look at opportunities and we look at ways to come together as a community, we bring people in. This field house was built, right? That would be an improvement. It wasn't done by the Board of Education, but it was done by the community, right?
Right, and that
was
probably
fundraising.
25 years ago.
Yeah. So there are people in the community that are still in the community that built that whole building on their own. Okay, not a dollar to the district. So we have opportunities to have input from people who have knowledge of building and had success, and obviously doing everything, being as efficient and effective with every dollar possible. So we have opportunities to come together, and I just wanted to, past, present, and future, just go over that quickly.
The second one you had was formal disengagement from NB5.
So as a Board of Education, we had signed a contract with NB5 to engage them. I'm not so sure we've ever formally sent them a notice that we're disengaging from them. So unless anyone has any ideas of staying engaged with NB5, I would suggest that we formally notify them that we're disengaging from them. And so I just want, that's a dotting an I and crossing a T. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Any discussion on that?
I mean, I think, I'm not sure that NV5 has been in the forefront of anybody's minds on the board. And typically when we move on from a contractor, there isn't any necessarily a formal notice that we are moving on. It's just the lack of future business. So.
And it was a per hour contract, so it's nothing unless we use them, we don't. There's no.
I think that where the scope was completed was in.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it is, and there's no more engagement unless we reach out to them to say, here's the next project, and kind of do another RFQ for that.
But it does leave it open to reach out to them and engage them on an hourly contract.
It would not be something to that aspect, any type of thing that we move forward with. Their contract, my understanding is their contract was completed when they presented it, and that was the end of it, and there's no more. So it would be no more than if we were to reach out to any other contractor in terms of, as a per hour basis. And there are those architectural design firms that will do some kind of piecework along the way, say we need a thought for this and that sort of thing. There's no intention nor part of that original project that we are continuing with. That project is done, we've ended it, and we are moving on to with the facilities assessment as the example. We went with Biologic, and I think our next steps would be potentially even working with, putting out what the next steps are for this, for whatever we determine. Where we go from here will be, another, request for qualifications, kind of looking at what we want, what we're looking for in scope, and kind of moving forward to that aspect. And I think that's where we go. But in terms of business with the district, NB5 has not been doing business with the district, even since, in my tenure.
Their last, it was, I think March 1st was the last time that we did anything with
So March 1st was when
them. That was their last billable.
that was their last billable time.
Yeah.
And if I understand the way the contract was written, is that when we utilize their services, we would pay them on a per-hour basis. So that's still open as far as how I understand the contract was written. We could still engage them today on a per-hour basis, because we've never closed that contract, that relationship.
I'd have to look to see, because I know it was kind of like, here's the, what the subject that we were having them work through. And like I said, I think we kind of got through that part, but I would have to check. to see.
Right, so on that, we gave them specifics as to what we wanted them to do, and we would pay them so much per hour.
Correct.
Then they did that, and we paid them that so much per hour. We could go back to them right now and say, we have another scope, and we'd like you to do this under the same contract. Because
I
it's,
don't-
Contract had a maximum amount of hours on it, didn't it, too, that we were only gonna pay for?
Yeah, I don't think we hit the max, but I think the scope will work,
I think
so.
once we hit the scope, that contract is closed. And so that scope has been completed and we are done.
Yeah.
okay, so once that scope was done, and Mike, if you could just look at the wording in that contract to make sure that that's what it said, that after that scope, that they were, the relationship ended with them. That wasn't my understanding of what the contract, how it read, but if you could double check that. So that would be NV5.
Right, the third thing you had was formal engagement with Cleora.
So as we look at the process that we started with looking for an owner's agent, we looked at finalists of NV5 and Cleora, and we chose NV5, and that didn't work out so well. The other party at the table was Cleora, and the reason I bring up Cleora again, it's a local company who did local work in the Shaker Heights system. Mr. Rotino, you're probably very familiar with the fire at Fernway and the rebuilding of Fernway. I'm sure you lived that for a few years and went through that whole process.
Good time.
And it looks like the job, from what people say, was completed successfully. And the representation, at least from Cleora, was that they were on time and in budget. And with the idea, not the idea, but with the fact that when a contractor didn't perform something properly, Cleora was able to get them to go back and literally tear it out and do it properly, and still get done on time and in budget. So the in budget part meaning that the contractor was not able to charge any more money to do that. So anyway, I look at that, and it is a local person who's used to doing local work, who has had success. I don't know what the number was, 20 million plus or minus. It was a decent number. And so it wasn't like it was a $2 or $3 million project. It was multiple millions, and it was done successfully. So I look at that and say, what are we looking for? We need a local person who's relational, who's proven to work on schools successfully, get it done on time and in budget. And for those reasons, I would say we are at the point, one more item, when Bialowski's engineers did their presentation, they said the next step would be to hire an owner's agent. So I think the logical outflow of that, since we've already done the work, we don't have to redo that work. I think that we could engage with Cleora, and that would be my suggestion.
So I just want to jump in. I think the point that they had made was we're at a point where we, as a board, have to sit down and decide what it is that we want to do. We have no projects slated for the agenda yet. We don't have anything that we need to manage yet. I'm not in favor. I think it's like we are not at the point where we've decided as a board or as a district, as the administrative team, like what direction we want to head yet. So I think that would be premature.
Well, typically those things would go out to bid as well, like we've not even opened any kind of formal process for that, so that would be, again, also premature.
So in looking at the next step, the gathering of information, taking the information that Bialowski gave us and organizing it, getting the stakeholders together, including the community members, especially some of those that did the field house, and getting their input. that's the next step in organizing the information and deciding what items we want to do first. Now, of course, Bialowski gave us the critical items, so we have a number of those, but we would still need to decide which one of those we wanted to execute first, second, third, and fourth, and so on. So the only way that we're going to organize all of that information effectively is to have an owner's agent who has done that sort of thing, like in Shaker Heights, met with the stakeholders and the community members and gathered all of that information, and then put forth a program that was acceptable, because everyone has different ideas, okay? Everyone has a desire to do this, someone else has a desire to do something else, and so you have to meet with everyone and pull all that together and make a coherent presentation of what's going to be done and in what order and what it's going to cost to do that. And of course, do you have enough money to do everything? If you don't, you have to decide what you're not going to do right away or what you're not going to do at all. And or in the future, is there another plan so that some things don't have to be done that were presented? So all of that comes from an owner's agent pulling all that information together, because none of us here can do that by ourselves, because inherently any one of us has our own individual desires and interests in what we think that we want done. We need an outside party to do that, especially since you're going to have a lot of people at the table giving thoughts and ideas. So I think it's just a natural outflow. The next step is to have an owner's agent pull all that together and start meeting with people. Without that, we're just going to be going in different directions. And that's what we've been doing, really, in my opinion, for the last couple of years since I've been on the board. We've not been able to do any improvements, and I think we need to get started.
I feel like we need to give the district administrative team an opportunity to put together a plan that they feel is appropriate and present something to the board. We also have to review some of the information that I know Mr. Klatko has provided in an email that he sent out this week regarding the financing options that we have, so that we can determine how much money we actually had to work with without putting us at risk for different things. He gave us some low-risk things, some medium-risk financing options, and some high-risk financing scenarios that we could follow to determine how much we're willing to spend, if we want to borrow. We have to sit down and decide those things first. I just think it's premature and in the case of Shaker Heights, they were dealing with one issue. They had a building that was destroyed that had to either be replaced or rebuilt. This is a completely different type of a scenario that I think warrants some of the conversations first.
Yeah, and so in Shaker Heights, it just wasn't one building. There were other buildings that there was some work done on, as I understand it. Do you remember that?
The majority of the work was an insurance work that was done on just Burnway. They did other projects as they went. They did some tuck pointing and things like that. I'm not sure if Fleur was in charge of that as well. Are they doing the new, I know Shaker just passed their new levy and their new bond issue for their renovations of all of their buildings. So that's the other thing. Do they have the time and the scope? Because I would say that with that, if they're doing Shaker's their new renovations, that's a huge project, and that they're renovating every single building there. So I think too, we have some people. I mean, I think Mr. Arlesic has some experience prior to coming here, and I would like to at least look at kind of having a plan to bring the owner's agent in. I think having experts and outside expertise is a key to this, especially in what you said with school experience. I think there are some good people. I think also fit is a really important thing. I think kind of when you work with everything, you'll fit for, do they value the same thing as, are the values the same as the community? Because if those values don't tie together, then we will not have a successful project. I think success is key to it. There is the point to the tenor of what we need to kind of do. And if we're starting, the monies that we have right now are small project monies. I mean, they're kind of small projects. We cannot fund with our current monies at all, the 90-some million, we can't even do all the critical projects. I think there was $40 million of critical or needs critical projects. If we put those off, then who else knows what comes down to that critical list? I think the concern that I said a lot is still, when you look at what Bialowski identified as critical projects and step down from critical projects, those projects, yes, they are critical to the infrastructure, but the roofs don't necessarily. You can say, yes, we did a roof, and it was great, but it doesn't really impact education. It doesn't really are we listening to the community? because the community is saying, hey, we need to put monies here, and this is a priority. And there's a lot of priorities that are out there, so I think that input is incredibly important. The Shaker input that came from it and all those meetings that came out when Fernway burnt down, the real question was, do we rebuild Fernway, or do we take it offline and kind of absorb them in other places? And I think that's where, you know, having those conversations as to what that new Fernway would look like. And it was a cool process when they redid the whole building and working with that agent to get that building on time and open. And it was tight, as they all are. I don't know how they always go to that last minute, but they always do. But I think that having the impact with that is a little bit different than this project, because again, at Fernway, those kids were not in the building. So we have the other issue of space, and every classroom is taken in every building. We don't have, how do we move kids and where do we move kids to do the work, or are we just doing the work over the summer? So I think that's the other real question that we have to determine is, what are we gonna do in the interim while we're doing this work? Because some of the work we can do, the brick work, absolutely we can do, you know, kind of while students are in session, some of those things. Roofing, depending on the system that you use, I would not recommend doing hot tar while students are, that's how Shaker caught on fire. But you know, some of those other systems that you use I'm not, by no means, I know there are some systems now that are cold systems. I think you can explain it way better than I could. But I think those are systems maybe we could do while students are in session. But I think there are a lot of other considerations. Renovating the building, that becomes a real question. Is who's in the building, why students are in the building? You know, do we have these people? Those are big safety and concern questions, and who are we having? How do we vet these people? How do we vet contractors? When do they work? We can say they work after hours, but this building runs, you know, almost, you know, till midnight. I mean, so you run the third shift basically to kind of work that through. So those are things we need to work on, I think, collectively first, to kind of get at least a sketch of a plan and an idea as to where we're going, and then I think truly bringing in people to knowledgeably talk about not only how we fund it and our options to fund it and multiple options to fund it, but what the plan is and what that looks like and what the real priorities that they see are if we go with this plan versus this plan. Because I think we've had some input from the community, and kind of now it's, here are our plans, here are 3 choices and 3 visions. What are your 3 visions? I'm just picking 3, I don't necessarily. What do you see as a value to you, and what do you value as a community member who's not necessarily a parent? What's a value to you as a community member who's just a community member? What could you get from your schools? We want our school to be the hub of the community. How can we use this opportunity to build this into the schools? Because I think that's a key as well. Is what would make this kind of as a central resource for all of our families and for all of our members.
And I think in this case, we'd go out for a scope of work. We'd have to put out in an RFQ, right? And
I
give multiple
believe
people a
this
chance
would be
to
a
bid on
rather
it.
large project that would have to go in and be competitively bid.
Right, so when you get into the at least 15 items that you mentioned there, exactly right. Going in a lot of different directions, need to pull it together.
We do.
Need to organize the information, get input from everybody, and start to see what we're gonna do first, second, third, fourth. And in that first, second, third, fourth, that's why an owner's agent who's accustomed to doing the work and organizing the chronology of work and what works and what doesn't, because you don't want to be doing some work where someone else, another trade comes in, and now you have to undo or redo some of the work that was already done. A lot of money can be wasted that way. And who knows that? Well, someone who's done it before. So we look at that, and then you touch on the roofing. Certainly, well, let me just say this. The Shaker burnt down because of the torches, the modified bitumen. The hot tar wasn't being used anymore. But that being said, that's certainly not a place you want to go. You're not going to use that type of material anymore. You know, what I understand was done on the 2 new elementary schools was PVC. And PVC is a single ply membrane. It's not often used. It was used there. It's fine. It's a good product. Most of the products today are TPO or EPDM. So when you have industrial commercial projects, it's TPO and EPDM. And TPO doesn't have a heat gun, but that's about it. You're not going to catch things on fire, and there's no heat involved with the EPDM. So most of it's an adhesive process with these single-ply systems. That being said, when you have an existing structure and you're going to do a roofing project, you certainly don't need an architect involved, okay? Because I know that was mentioned. It'd be a total waste of money. You have an existing structure. You don't need to create a diagram for building it. It's already there. Now the question is, what do you do with it now that it's there? And there are other options. There are coating options today. Technologies have really, really come a long way. And so you're going to look at an acrylic or siliconized coating system that Saint-Gobain, I don't know if you've ever heard of Saint-Gobain, but they are a worldwide, one of the largest material distributors, producers and distributors in the world of building materials. They have a 20-year warranty on a system that is liquid, supplied as a liquid. And they would give us 20 years on a warranty on that. That would cut our costs by $1 million. So anyway, there are opportunities, but without the knowledge of the information and without someone to put it all together and organize the chronology of it, it's next to impossible to take another step. If we want to interject a step of having administration meet with the community, that's okay, but it's going to have to be done again once we hire an owner's agent. So it's going to be redundant. You can't have an owner's agent say, okay, what do they want, and not know what people said and sit down and make decisions. It's impossible.
So can anyone who was involved in the facilities plan last time comment on, we didn't have an owner's agent, my understanding is it was all done by administration pulling that together the ideas, right?
We had a group of probably 30 core individuals from administrative to quite a few number of community members, as a matter of fact, who got together and met over the course of probably 6 months, if I remember correctly, who actually put that plan together as a group. And there was a lot of discussion about, do we go for the elementary schools first versus the high school? That was probably the biggest issue that arose, and eventually there was some consensus from the group there that we would go for the elementary concerns first. I don't think we've gotten to that point here when we talk about space and we talk about putting money into elementary schools that we don't even know whether or not we want to keep online. And those are the conversations that we're going to need to have. But we did that, and then we didn't have an owner's agent. We put that plan together. We had individuals who came in and talk about the financing, our bond finance individual who we still work with came in and had conversations with the group to explain to them about the financing, about the bond rates, about how all that works. And then we put the presentation together. I think that's when Nick had started at that point. You were working with us, and we put that whole, package together. And that was all done kind of in-house generically, and it grew organically out of the group that met.
Yeah, so let me just add to that. It's two different universes. When you're looking at building a new structure and you have an architect and you have plans, you can give that to a lot of different people to follow. When you have to create your own chronology and your own plans, that's a total different universe.
Well, that's what we did. We did not have plans. We had no concept of what it is that we wanted to do as a community yet.
I think having the concept as to which buildings we know for certain we're keeping online and which buildings are questionable is really key to this whole work, because the worst thing to do is to spend money on a building that, to put it upgraded with some building that eventually we're not gonna have the space, or it's not gonna meet the need educationally. And I think that's when we talk about what the vision is to the next steps, I think that's the work really to look at, because that's having the concept, the idea of where we're going in the end game, and then working backwards a little bit. Absolutely. Once we figure out what buildings we're keeping, what we're doing the upgrades to, I think, yes, having someone to kind of say these projects go together, this goes there, who knows it, who's done the work, who's been there, that is critical to making it a success along the way. It is really into what's the vision and what's the tenor for the vision, and then at that point, okay, how do we break that off into smaller chunks? I think that is the big question that's out there. The $90 or the $100 million that are out there just to upgrade still leaves us with 3 modular units at Buckeye. It doesn't necessarily impact every single learning space. It leaves us with learning spaces that are what we currently have and not upgraded to the way we teach and fitting of the career technical program that we like to add. We're teaching a construction class currently in a classroom. and not necessarily in the lab where they have different ways for furniture and that sort of thing. So that's, part of it is the visioning that works forward, and it also really too is, you know, the other part is the listening piece along the way, because what are the community's values? What do we've heard for the last couple of months about, you know, the restroom facilities, the need to upgrade those, and what does that look like? And I think I will agree here, the owner's agent would be critical, because when we go into to upgrade those restrooms, if we go to upgrade those restrooms and choose to do that, what applicable laws and guidelines come into play? And that's a real concern, because are we meeting, you know, occupancy spaces? Are we kind of hitting those limits? Do we have to go to ADA compliant, and at what point? Because the building is so old, we don't necessarily have to meet those codes, but once we do so much, at what point do we have to do certain projects that aren't critical, but they become critical because of where we go to? And I think that's where, yes, I would agree, I am not an expert on that, we need to bring the expert in, but I think if we're doing that to a building that we're not gonna keep online because of other issues that are there, then I think those are concerns that we need to identify what what the vision is first, and kind of how we see what's gonna look like at the Riverside moving forward, and that's where, but then what are the next steps? And I fully agree, I think it's a yes and. I think yes, we need to have someone in there, you know, who knows what they're talking about. I think yes, we need to talk with a person who knows how to finance it and what our financing options are. And I think we need to talk with, and before we do either one of those, we need to know what we're financing. And I think that's the biggest thing. What's the goal? And there's a whole lot of different goals that we can have. And what's the ultimate goal and vision? You know, not only for the board moving forward, but also for the community and with the tenants. I think that's the critical to the next step moving forward with that. And then the next part to that is, now that we have a general kind of overview, now we're going to look at specifically, okay, this is how we fix this, and these are the priorities within this, you know, overall scheme.
Right, so when you look at the 100 million, the 98, you just round it to 100. What's a couple million, right? Okay, it's a lot of money, but we're going to round it to 100 just for the sake of conversation. When I look at the a la carte approach in the scope of work, I really believe we can cut that in half, okay? So that's my belief. You sit down and you start, again, my suggestion is someone who's done it, who knows more about it than all of us here, and knows how to put it all together and organize it and start to move forward. Once you sit down and go through everything, and it's no different than the administration sitting down with stakeholders, except you're adding an owner's agent there so you can have more complete information than what people have that would be at the table without that person. So if that person is there, what cost would that be to have someone sit down, have some meetings, organize information, and come up with a template of vision, right? Because what I'm hearing now is we don't necessarily have a vision, and we don't know what direction we're going in. Well, we've been following the strategic plan, so where are we? And to that point, when we put the bond levy up, did we have an alternative plan in case it didn't pass? No, we didn't. So here we are today, we're a year and a half later, not having gotten anything done. Now we're still having the discussions. Are we going to tear down any or all buildings, and what are we going to do? What's our vision? What's our plan? And now we're still saying we need more information from people and input. Seriously? We still are at that point where we're looking for more information and input and a path forward. So the whole idea of getting the engineer's report was to see what work needed to be done. Now that we know what work needs to be done, sure, certainly there needs to be a vision and what are the possibilities down the road, and we work towards that end. But certainly there's work to be done. Fernway School, I believe, is 100 years old. Okay, this building's 70-some years old. So when you decide with a fire that pretty much guts a building and it's 100 years old, not to tear it down, there's a reason for that. Maybe we should find out what that reason was. Why did they keep this brick structure? Okay, it was older than what we have here. So all this information is important, but we can't do that ourselves is what I'm trying to impress. We need someone to come to the table, and that would be an owner's agent to help us put all of this information together and look at a path or two or three paths forward. What are the options?
Yeah, so
that step has to be taken, otherwise we're gonna continue to waste time.
So I think we're probably gonna need a working session to kind of go over what's the next step to get the big vision. No matter what, we go back out for bid, go out with an RFQ to figure out who the owner's agent is anyways at the end of the day. So probably what we need to do is put a working session
we can-
on so we
yeah.
can figure out. And I thought that's what we were coming out of from the last time, we met. We talked about the next step would be the RFQ. But it sounds like now we're kind of saying, hey, we need to have that kind of vision, what we want to do, so that we can put that in the qualifications, like, here's what we need you to do for us, so.
I think when we come to that working session too, we can come up with some like larger, conceptual type, here's where we're moving to, and here's our,
Yeah,
pluses and minuses, even kind of a plus delta, some conceptual type frameworks of kind of keeping the buildings, what it might look like, using all the information that we have. So we have a number of information, and also what we know, kind of looking down the pipe.
Right, so we've had a lot of people have those thoughts and ideas and input, right? So we can do that again, and we can put all that on the table and discuss it again. Now's the time to do that.
Absolutely.
Decide where we want to head, and, so I know that Kayla Sway, is that what it is? That gentleman might have a couple ideas too, he might be willing to share, so. But I mean, what he always said was, hey, the 8th grade needs to be out of here. And so, just putting that out there, I tend to agree with that, and so, but certainly, people can have all the ideas come together, and we have to have a vision. Without a vision, we're not going to.
I would agree, I think that's the key to this, to the RFQ, is having, because we can write it more specific to where we see the vision going. And I
this is
think
exactly what
yeah.
we need you to do
This is
for
what we
us.
need to this is what we need you to help us get to. So here's our vision, help us get to that. I think we can do that for the work session, we'll kind of put some, we'll draft up some ideas using all the information that we have, and then kind of go from there, and then look at kind of what our specs are.
Probably in January, when we have our
Yes.
new board member join us.
We'll have a new board member, I will throw some dates out as well.
Thank you.
The same way to kind of see where your availability is, and to get something scheduled with that, and,
Great.
schedule, so, yeah.
Is we okay with that direction?
I would like to do it sooner rather than later, I think it's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Great. I think that was all you had for old business, correct?
That's all I had.
All right, and then I had put out there, I sent everyone, one of the things we kept talking about is adding what a committee does on the Board of Education, and also what the liaison does. I sent out a draft of something I just put together. So I think it would be great to put the feedback, and then I think probably in January when we re-elect committees or nominate committees, we can hand that off to whoever is in charge of the policy committee to go ahead and formalize it. Are you okay with that?
Makes sense, right?
All right, so if everybody could take a look and just provide any feedback, that way we can hand that off for nice and neat. Perfect. And there was no other old business, correct? All right, and there was no new business submitted? All right, so that brings us to the Board of Education Committee and Liaison reports. First one is the Superintendent's Business Advisory Liaison. We did have a meeting this past month. We spent a lot of time talking about the portrait of a graduate, using the Business Advisory Council members to kind of help us say, are these the right things to focus on still? And there was a lot of discussion about how do we tie that to, like our strategic plan and also our,
Culture playbook.
thank you, so that we can make sure that they all kind of fit together and all the work is kind of evolving and working together to make sure that we are identifying the right things. So the administration, Dr. Martino took it away as kind of, he's going to draft up something. We also took a look at some other districts, what they are doing for their portrait of graduate, just to get ideas. And one of the things that was discussed, there might be a piece with more detail, but then also just a nice little picture to kind of summarize it for people so they could go into it easily. So more to come on that. Hopefully we'll see some progress made. I think we meet again.
We haven't set that date, but we'll meet again in March, probably.
Okay, great. And I think a group was going to start working with Dr. Malacker too on some ideas that she had. So hopefully we're engaging.
Good luck to them.
Hopefully we're engaging our business management council very well. So
I would think that our portrait graduate would look way better than a lot of, okay, I'm just doing some comparing.
I
but-
like that would make
But
sure-
just because of the
Lens.
things that we're doing, we're
Yeah.
giving them, like, they're going to look so much better when they come out of Riverside than they will look like elsewhere. And I think we should be super proud of that.
And I think we even talked about not making it a portrait of a graduate, but a portrait of a,
Of a Riverside beaver.
yeah, of a beaver.
So it
instead
goes-
of-
it's kind of a K-12.
Yeah.
So we move it through there, kind of working so that it's all encompassing, so every grade sees what they're doing. And
Where they're working
So these universal skills that we would talk about.
Right, like we're gonna graduate some really great potential employees right out of the box, which is great.
And that was it. The next one is Curriculum and Programming Committee and Alumni Association, Mr. Fischel.
So on the curriculum, we had a meeting and I had posited an idea of our curriculum director putting together an outline, a 1, 2, and 3-year plan to take our scores. We unfortunately are scoring about 49% in geometry and 52% in algebra when the tests are taken. And my idea was to get that up to 70. And then also the third graders being proficient, reading at level. You know, most people can understand reading at level. What does proficient mean? If we take it as reading at level, they take a test as they're entering third grade, and then they take a test at the end of the year. And the goal there is to get them from a 2/3 reading at level to much higher, 70, and then hopefully a 75 and an 80, but at least reaching 70. And my thought and input in the meeting was that 70% is 1 point higher than 69%. 69% is a D. So if we could reach 70 and then put a goal of 75 and 80 for these kids that are coming through third grade, they'll have a much better success in school. Why is that? Because the studies show, and this is nationwide, study after study after study, only 12% of those kids that aren't reading at level in third grade ever catch up. So that means 88% of those kids that aren't reading at level struggle through the rest of school and then oftentimes struggle in life. So, you know, Mr. Hack has said this famously so many times, we are in the business of education. So if we can look to improve that, and my idea was if we can measure, instead of half a year and year looking backwards and looking at scores and then saying, okay, what should we do? I'm looking at it, if we could start to measure every 2 weeks, set up some kind of a protocol to where we could see how students are doing every 2 weeks, I think we would have a better chance of helping them succeed because we would have a better picture of their trend, each and every individual student. So it was an idea I posited, and hopefully we can do some work on that. As I came onto the board, my main goal was to make Riverside the gold standard. And I say, why not? Why can't we do it? We can do it. We just heard a couple great ideas, right? You know, instead of portrait of a graduate, how about portrait of a Riverside Beaver? Right, make that the gold standard. Make Riverside Beavers the gold standard. So anyway, it's a passion of mine. I'd like to see a little bit better performance on the scoring in the school for the kids, and I think it would help them not only in their educational experience, but in their livelihood, and then also the community. Because as we're talking about here, as people come out of Riverside High School and they go to work in the community, it's going to be a better and stronger community if kids are better educated. So it's a thought on that. So anyway, is there anything else that I missed?
Yeah, I think one of the really exciting things that we didn't get to talk about is that, you know, when we talk about how our third graders take the test at the beginning of the year, we are actually scored 16 points higher this past year than we had the year previous, which is an amazing improvement. And it's actually the highest percentage. We had 55% of our third graders who took that test only, a few weeks into the school year. So we're talking about what they learned in grades K through 2. 55% of them passed the third grade reading guarantee only a few weeks into the third grade school year, which was an amazing accomplishment. In the year previous, we were 39%. And we still got to the high 60s, I think you said. We usually expect a 20-30% growth by the end of the year. So we're very much, if that's the case, going to be on track to be hitting 70, 75, 80% passage rate, which would be really phenomenal. So 16% growth was amazing, and the highest that we've seen all the way back to 2016, we were at 46%. That was the highest we had been previously.
I looked that up actually because you were stealing my thunder a little bit.
Yeah, he's got a whole slide on this.
But
Super
It's
exciting.
the highest since Cambium took over the testing.
It's
the highest they've
amazing,
ever
so.
scored in the fall
Are
test.
these the students too that started kindergarten on Zoom?
No,
No, is it the next year?
the next year.
Okay. So these are students that had a
These are
part year on
students
Zoom?
that have 2 full years.
Okay.
Kindergarten, or 3 full years, kindergarten 1 and 2 in classroom.
Well, a lot of those kindergarten did, because because my son's in 3rd grade, and his kindergarten year, they had Detroit.
Oh,
We had
yeah,
like,
Detroit,
we had like
yeah.
1,100 total students in the district do remote learning.
Okay.
So a lot of those kindergartens, yeah, they were doing Zoom.
And then on the liaison, the Alumni Association, there should be a meeting in January. So there'll be an update at that time.
Great, thank you. That brings us to Buildings, Grounds, Operations Committee and Legislative Liaison, Mr. Hack.
Sure, so Buildings and Grounds, we met on December 11th, which was on Monday of this week, and there is progress being made on the modules at Buckeye. Hopefully by tomorrow, that was a projection, they'll be fully bolted together and the finishing work will be done, and the goal is to have them online on or about January 3rd. So, I don't know, Dr. Rottino, is
More
there
to
any-
come.
More to come.
More to
Okay.
come.
So, that continues. There was just some other things that were going on. The roof over the science labs, which is the wing, basically halfway down the building. It used to be the last wing of Riverside before the connection was made. A lot of vents and things go through the roof, so there's a proposal to actually re-roof that whole section, which is consistent with the plan anyway, that bylaws he put together. But there's a plan to put that away, or to work on that. $150,000 is what it would cost. And there was talk of that being on this agenda. I'm sorry, did it make it?
No.
Okay, so that will be coming up here, I think, early in 2024. And so that is good, in 2 birds with 1 stone. There's some other things going on. The pond just outside the gate by or just outside the fence around the stadium where the band sits, that is still being addressed, but the goal is to put a pipe in there to drain that, and we should be, working on that. They want to make sure that there are no other construction, no other pipes, no other man-made elements there, so that they don't, when they do the work, they don't actually end up with creating more work for them down the line. But that is underway, and we should be good. And
Mr. Hack, is it true, the rumor that a piece of heavy equipment like a backhoe got buried over in the pond, they can't find it?
I think it's a VFR, a very false rumor is what that is. But anyway, we have some other things going on as well, but most of the focus, I think, in 2024 is going to be how we move forward with the overall scheme for the buildings. But Mrs. Grassi, did I miss anything?
No, I'm just curious why, I thought we were gonna have on the agenda the roof and the rooftop air conditioner over the high school music room.
I'm not sure.
I don't remember, I have it on the list of things that we had asked, is that gonna be on Thursday's agenda?
Right.
There was a reason why they wanted to move forward with that, so that we can actually get those things out and get work done sooner rather than later. So I don't know if we want to think about that like for early January, maybe even at our organization meeting, if we want to add that as a business item. So that's just my notes.
Yep. No.
And I don't take a lot of notes, but that's my notes.
All right, and I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Policy Committee, Booster Organization Liaison, Mrs. Pardon.
There are some policies that are on the agenda today under the Buildings and Grounds consent agenda to take a look at. Boosters, we had an RPTA meeting scheduled for 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, when Nick and I got on it, it was just us and 2 other schools, so that was rescheduled. There seemed to be some confusion among some members, so that was rescheduled for early January. So we can try that again and get updates while they start working on the community egg hunt and things like that, but.
Thank you. Superintendent's report?
All right, well, some of my thunder's been stolen, but I can't say enough how excited we are about our fall fifth grade scores. These are the fall third grade scores. The fall third grade test is part of the third grade guarantee, but it is the end of the year assessment. So students who take that test in the fall are actually tested on the skills they should know by the end of the year. 55% of our students scored proficient or higher, which is different than the score they need to actually show as reading at level, if you would, based on the state of Ohio. 63% of our students right now are measured as reading proficiency score or higher, which is really exciting for us. It shows that the work that we've done in K1 and 2 with bringing in the different foundations and different curriculum materials is kind of panning out and is absolutely working. And it also allows us to provide intense interventions for less third graders who are already proficient, kind of focus our interventions on those really needs so we can even increase those scores even more. It's as we said earlier, it's a 16% increase in the highest we start taking. It is something that we are really truly excited about, this score and where this comes from, and kind of looking for the future for these students and kind of moving forward as to kind of the great instruction that's going on in all of our elementary buildings. So kudos to all of our teachers. Another thing to really celebrate is our high school. Riverside Campus was recognized with a PBIS Bronze Award. This is distributed to schools who implement positive interventions, behaviors, and supports. It is that we have a plan, we have certain things that we are actually teaching behaviors along the way, and that we have this positive, appropriate behavior that goes on. And if you look throughout the halls, we are teaching students appropriate behaviors, and this is a great thing. Really kind of teaching those critical skills for students as well as they move through. So another feather in our cap, if you would. Thursday, we held a substitute job fair for non-substitute teaching positions as well as substitute teachers throughout the district. A team of our building leaders talked. Unfortunately, we didn't have a huge turnout, but we did bring in 5 potential classified staff. So we're excited to onboard them as soon as we can. They will be probably on the agenda as early as January's agenda to get them on board. They are critical parts to our operations, keeping them going. And also, we were excited to onboard 11 new substitute teachers. And substitute teachers is something we need. And making our changes are really kind of making us an attractive district for subs and kind of bringing them on along the way. So we are really excited to have that ability because when we have subs, we can do other type of learning along the way. We can do professional learning with staff. We can bring them out, get a sub with them, and kind of do some in-house professional learning, allow our teachers to grow, which helps ups learning that goes on in the classroom. So it's a super exciting thing to do. And kudos to our HR department to put this together to bring them in. So something we're really proud of along the way. And all of our administrators who paid attention. I can't say enough about our student groups. It's amazing. Halls of Holly happened on December 2nd. If you didn't come, Riverside just does an amazing job with all of their events. This is another one where it's more than 120 Lutheran Riverside students helped out to host the event for our youngest beavers. They kind of came in and really turned into something that's really fun and eventful. I know they're going to want it next year as well. So another great thing, and kudos to our students. Buckeye, with pictures, the new modular is on site and being prepped. Their power to the units is scheduled for next week. Once that occurs, they're going to be in there. We'll replace the new doors, LED lights, and carpet along the way. We've been kind of working with them along the way. We're excited to kind of see that unit get put together. We know that the Buckeye community is really excited to kind of see that third, that additional classroom space that's up there, and can't wait to see the learning that goes on in that modular classroom as well. And finally, we, HR, also partnered with Discount Drug Mart to administer over 100 vaccinations for our school employees last week on December 7th and 8th. We are excited to have that, keeping our teachers healthy. We do need to set an organizational meeting in time for January, so I put that in there. So I remember to kind of say, hey, get your calendars out, let's pick a date. And finally, from all of us, happy holidays, and there's us in our ugly sweaters. So, up there.
Cute. Princess was ugly.
Mine was really, which is why I went to back.
We had some hair stuff going on.
So in terms of an organizational meeting, I know Mr. Pletko was looking for something the week of the 8th. The communication calendar out, we'll kind of pick something that week.
Typically, it's the first week. I'm gonna be out of town the second and third week.
It's normally, it just has to be done before the 15th.
Yeah, so if we can make it the first week. Mr. Plecko doesn't have a problem with the first week, does he?
Yeah, he
will
does.
not be-
He won't be.
He does.
He doesn't necessarily have to be here. But the board members need to be.
I think he does to swear in the new board members.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, anybody can swear in a new board member, any elected official, even a notary public can do that.
I'll talk to Dan McIntyre, I'll find out. It does say per our bylaws, it says the treasurer will do it.
He does, yes.
But I will go ahead and talk to Dan to see if there's something we can do.
Okay.
But, so why don't we pick a date the first week and then see what we can get on the agenda.
Okay, it's just a note, the Ohio Revised Code just says anyone can swear you in, an elected official or.
Right, but our
notary
bylaws
public.
say differently
So-
as well.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, because there was a policy that tried to be passed when I was elected to prevent that. It was an emergency policy that said the students of the district were at risk if you didn't pass the policy saying only the treasurer could swear someone in.
But our bylaws state
And
the
of course,
treasurer.
it failed. So I'm just saying, Ohio Revised Code allows anyone to swear someone in, and so that,
That's
Gary
fine.
doesn't have to be here.
That's
all
fine.
I'm saying.
And like I said, we can pick a date the first week of January, and then I will talk to Dan McIntyre and see what we can do.
Yeah, we also have our tax budget hearing at the same time, so there's
Yeah, there are
that the treasurer would generally present that information. We usually have separate, it's a separate meeting prior to.
So why don't we see, like,
It's
this,
usually on the
the 4th? Okay, and we'll, like I said, I'll talk to Dan, I'll talk to Gary, and we'll figure out what we need to do.
I'm available any day, the week of the 8th and the 4th, I'm fine.
Fourth is good for me.
We do have that as part of the buildings and grounds agenda on here as well.
On the 4th?
Well, no, for the approval of the tax budget and the organization.
The time,
hearing.
yeah.
So
Yeah, we have to actually put that into our meeting minutes here.
So it's in the buildings and grounds section, so we can formally approve the dates for that one.
Right. So just for people's understanding, Mr. Placco, if it ends up being on the 4th and Mr. Placco is not here, we would have to do a treasurer pro temp, kind of like what we did here, I would think. And then we could, would you be in a position to potentially provide that information?
I actually will be out of the office myself that week, but I can pass that along and see, if they do that, that qualifies. for
Okay.
ours.
I would imagine, yeah, like, I can present it, it's fine.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
not like I haven't done that before, but, you know.
right. Sounds like there could be, sounds like a plan, a backup plan's coming together.
So we said the 4th, is everybody okay with the 4th?
I'm not totally sure. I know I've got people in town for my work on the 3rd and the 4th, or both that I'm required to be at all day and all night. We've got dinners and things like that on both the 3rd and the 4th. There are extra days we gotta work, extra during vacation.
Would the morning of the 5th be better?
I could do the morning, but there's a basketball game in the evening. I can't miss that for my kid. I miss a lot of his stuff already.
I'm good the morning of the 5th.
Fifth is fine for me.
What time are we thinking we have?
I'd have to do 7:30, so I
Yeah,
could be
I
back.
would
to
have to
work.
do really early because I have work commitments at 8.
Mhm. Is it okay?
Did you say what time?
7:30?
It would have to be almost earlier than that because I would have to be done in that work by.
Yeah, I can't do earlier.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I was trying to put it at the end, thinking, I don't know what Gary's plans are, but I was trying to put it at the end of that week, hopefully.
Well, I know
so-
we're off to the 3rd, which makes it,
Okay.
Yeah, we usually do that
Yeah.
Tuesday the ninth, I wanna say is usually when we have it, that Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, usually isn't that next week?
Yeah.
Right, and it has to be done before, we have
The
to,
15th.
we have to, it has to be done before the 15th, not on the 15th, it has to be done before the 15th, right? So,
And then we've normally had the tax budget like
15 minutes before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Right, just to give somebody time to review the data that's on it.
Right, so the 3rd, can anybody do 3rd, the evening of the 3rd?
I can do the
I
third.
cannot do the 3rd or the 4th, we've got people in
Oh,
town.
I'm sorry, you just said that, I apologize.
My,
Right.
my actual paying job.
Yeah, I know, I'm not available on the 3rd, but I can do, cannot get the 4th, but.
All right, let me talk to Dan real quick. We can make a call to Dan and just find out,
Okay, yeah.
because we're in a situation that, yeah, we're in a situation, I think that's gonna be very challenging, so.
Yeah, I think that is, it seems like scheduling.
I mean, we've had Saturday meetings before, I'm free on Saturday the 6th.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not.
Although, was there any reason why, well, I mean, if we're gonna have a meeting and one person's not gonna be there, what difference does it make if we have it on the week of the 8th? If we're gonna have a meeting in the week of the first week of the month, I'd rather have Gary available for the meeting. If we're gonna have somebody who's a board member who can't be at the meeting, I would prefer to have Gary at the meeting, right, so.
Showing his tax budget.
Right.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, let me talk to Dan about a couple of different things real quick. We'll make sure with Gary not being here, and then I will go ahead and, send a note out to the rest of the board so we can narrow down that date, and figure out what we wanna do.
Do
Right.
we have to have action on?
Oh,
We
it is on the
probably
agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Right,
Again,
we don't have, we can strike it from the agenda. If
I don't
you-
know.
But I think it has to be.
It has to be
I
on
think
the
we have to
agenda.
determine when the meeting is though, don't we?
Again, I'm just gonna say that if we're gonna have a board member who's gonna be missing from a meeting, I would rather have a board member missing from the meeting and have Gary present than have a board member missing from the meeting and not have Gary present. So I would rather have the meeting on the week of the 8th, because then at least we're only missing one person
Versus 2.
versus two.
Well, my guess is that Gary probably chose that first week to be off because the meeting is always.
Well,
typically that
he
Monday,
did
Tuesday.
request at our finance meeting that we're gonna, that we have the meeting the week of the 8th, because he won't be here, so I didn't see that that would be an issue, but he had already made that, no, yeah, at least at the finance committee meeting, so.
Is anybody available the 6th?
The what day?
The 6th, Saturday the 6th.
I am.
I can do the 6th.
Do we have Gary's back by the weekend?
I don't know that he is,
I'd have to double check and see.
right, I don't think he is.
And that I don't know.
Again, I'm not exactly sure why we just can't comply with his request to have it the week of the 8th. If he's available the week of the 8th, beginning the 8th, we should pick a date that week that he's available.
So we don't know when he's available this Wednesday.
I don't,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I did not ask him specifically, like, if he'd be back. But
Is he going out of town?
there was
I think he's on vacation.
All right. We do have to have a date on the agenda for the tax, right?
And the tax budget hearing
Yes.
has to be publicized, I think, doesn't, not in the
Yes.
newspaper, and so we have to have 2 weeks, right? So we have to have that date.
Yes. All right, so what about the week of the 8th? What is out there? And then I'll talk to make sure what we do with the board member not being available for the meeting. My 8th is pretty clear.
I'm available on do that week.
The best day of the week for me that week is Thursday.
The 11th,
Yes.
Ms. Brewster?
The 8th is fine for me.
What about the 11th?
The
Is that-
11th? Are you talking evening or day?
Evenings are better for me.
Gary is in town the 6th, and he says he could make it work.
Okay,
thank you.
perfect. Thank you.
Not to interrupt.
No, that's great.
That's essential.
Thank you, Nick. All right, so the 6th, do you guys want to do it in the morning?
Yep,
Please.
Yes.
get it over
Yes,
with.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can we do 8?
Yep, I can do it.
8 AM?
I think we have a wrestling tournament that day, so if we can do it early, that helps me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does it work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do 6.
No. All right, so 8 AM on January 6th.
Although I should clarify, he said as of now.
Well, we're
Tell
gonna
them it
book
just
it,
got
so-
8 AM.
Yeah, it's not the schedule.
Yeah, so 8 AM on January 6th, we'll do the tax budget hearing.
I think you would prefer it.
We'll do the organization meeting. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Thank you for,
tax budget's at 8, organization's at 8:15?
Correct. Yep. Nick, thank you for using technology and solving our dilemma. Great.
And that is my report.
All right. That brings us to the treasurer's report and committee update. So finance, audit, and personnel committee and strategic plan liaison, Mrs. Grassi.
Sure. Dr. Rotino stole my thunder because I was going to talk about the substitute job fair, but you already did that. So we're just passing it on here. So we talked about that extensively. So glad that it was successful. We reviewed some of the information that was on this board agenda. We talked about our COPS grant that we have applied for, and we actually received funding for some security things that we are going to be able to do in the district that have to do with radios. And so I would imagine is that on the agenda today?
I don't believe we have that on here.
But that will, eventually is going to have to be on the agenda to accept the COPS grant and to
I
actually.
think we're still working through the federal
Yeah.
acceptance program to try to.
Yeah,
try to get the money.
it is a federal grant, it's a nationwide federal grant, and so that is a little bit complicated, but we are eligible to get some dollars to replace radios that people will be able to utilize within the district to have conversations with each other, like, direct from, instead of having to pick up a phone or pick up some other kind of a radio. So that's a nice thing. We talked about having some information for PTA and PTO and booster groups and starting to put together a handbook and manual for them on best practices for their organizations, because most of them are their own separate 501c3s, and sometimes when you have such a rotating slate of officers that go through those groups, they really don't understand what their fiscal responsibilities are when it comes to being an officer of 501c3. And so we talked about that. I think Finance Department is putting together some information for that. So there's that, and then the audit is ongoing. It started.
Should be wrapping up anytime. I did get an email this afternoon from our auditor asking
That's
for
early.
one more thing.
Yeah,
So
probably sort of early, because they usually don't finish until sometime.
hopefully that's before next week.
And that was about it. So it was a short meeting. I don't have anything else.
Great, thank you. And that brings us, an update from the treasurer, please.
Well, Mr. Placco did ask me to kind of go through line by line all our expenses and revenue.
Good. I brought my popcorn.
And do it slow, and go slower.
And go slowly.
And we chose not to do that, so.
And I did choose not to do that,
Oh,
so.
very nice.
I like it.
Right along, so just as a reminder, we have all our financial information and some other information that we have for the district on the district treasurer's page. Once everything's approved, we will load up November's information onto the site. Our total cash balance at the end of November was just shy of 42 million in all funds. General fund, obviously being our largest, we were just shy of $26 million. And our permanent improvement fund is just shy of $6,700,000 unencumbered, which means basically that those monies are available to be spent. We do have cash on hand, but those are for projects. One of the things I've mentioned, if you're looking back at like last month, we were around $8 million. We have the POs on for the vestibule projects, which then kind of took away some of the available cash. For the appropriations and revenue estimates, we are 5 months through the fiscal year through November, which is at 41.67%. Our revenue is exceeding that percentage, but just to keep in mind, we have basically all our money through taxes, and those come in at certain points of the year. So we got our taxes earlier this fall. We'll ride that out a little bit, and then come February, March, we'll get another tax advance and settlements, and so we'll kind of fluctuate. So it equals itself out in the end. Expenditures are usually more consistent, which is why we're just shy of 40%, so we're pretty close on target for those numbers there. Just some information, general fund wise. This month's revenue is about $778,000. It's actually kind of low for our normal, for our months, but that's just because, again, most of our activity hits in certain periods of time. We had $600,000 of that was from State Foundation, and another $85,000 came in through our interest, which makes up pretty much all of what those funds were for the month. STAR currently is around 5.6%, and our Red Tree investments are increasing percentage-wise as they're able to reinvest in some of the newer pieces that are out there. And our overall yield is at 4.7%. And as I mentioned, our expenditures, they're at $4.3 million, which is about average for what our current regular months are. We're right in at $4 million and $4.3 million on there. So that was all I have.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Did a great job. Not going line by line.
We appreciate it.
All right.
Gary
that
actually
brings
just
us
texted me
to
his 10 more items.
Public participation.
Too late.
Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the Board President. Speakers are requested to identify themselves and their topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone?
Douglas Conis, and I have 3 kids that go to Riverside Schools, and I have 2 topics. One I was not going to talk about tonight, but then I heard you talk about facilities, so I'll comment about that, and then I want to talk about indoor track as well. You know, I was here a year and a half ago after the bond levy didn't pass, and I said to everybody in the room, I said, I voted for it, right? But the community overwhelmingly, like beyond what I could have ever imagined, said no. We're not building a new building. It's not going to happen. 76% of the people said no. And I don't see it happening anytime soon. So now let's fast forward a year and a half later. I mean, I have 0 years in construction, right? But I travel the country going into car dealerships and meeting with car dealers, right? And a lot of times I talk about their facilities. And I can tell you this right now, I don't think we could do a trip anywhere, a field trip. None of them have lighting like this, right? They all have LED lighting. They all have new windows. They sure as heck, I can't stand and look over the stall at the person next to me in their bathroom, right? And they all have air conditioning, I can tell you that. So a year and a half later, as far as I'm concerned, as a parent, at this campus right here, and God love all of you, right? I mean, you have a thankless job, and I get it, and I appreciate every one of you. I really do. You know, you all deserve a pat on the back because you're doing something, and a lot of it's thankless, so we in the community appreciate it. But I can say here, at this campus, especially having stood outside, at a cross-country meet where parents, from other schools are looking at our building, and one time a parent had to apologize to me because they didn't realize it was actually a Riverside parent, and they were sneering at our building. We're better than that, guys, aren't we? Aren't we better than that? So let's do something. Air conditioning, God forbid. The windows aren't safe, in this building right here. They're not. So do something about it. Secondly, please, with all due respect. Secondly, indoor track, just really quick. There's, and you probably don't know a lot about it, but at the end of the day, you have club teams. It's not even technically a school sport, right? So some kids want to train in December, and then other kids want to start in January. So the kids that want to start in December are on the GCX club team. And then there's going to be another club team that starts in January. Now, because there's petty politics going on between, coaches, if the kids that train in December are now being told they can't run, and they're cross-country runners at this school, right? They're being told they can't run in the league meets with Riverside because they're choosing to train in December and not start in January. That's ridiculous. And it's petty politics, is what it is. It's a bunch of adults acting like children. Period. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
John Music, Coventry Drive, Painesville Township. I've lived in this district for over 75 years. I went to Riverside. My family, my parents went through here. My sister was the first graduating class through Riverside, and my family and an extended family have been and still are in the Riverside district. I know a lot about it. When I was employed, I spent a lot of time working here. I know a lot of people here. And the thing about it is, what I want to say is, and I've said a lot of this stuff before, and I said, just remember, haste makes waste, something Mr. Fischel was saying, and I agree with this. I said this at the commissioner meeting the other day. When people make quick decisions, look it up in the dictionary. Haste makes waste. Used to say that doing something too quickly causes mistakes that result in time, effort, materials, etc. being wasted. I would add money to that also. And just remember stewardship. Stewardship, and I've said this one about steward in this meeting before, previous. I said, steward, what is good steward? A steward, the conducting, supervising, or managing of something, especially the careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. One's care that we give to our school is our children. We ask you to take care of them. Number one and number two is to make sure they're safe. Number two is to make sure they get the best education. And when you look at the rankings for Ohio, and last time I know, Painesville Township was part of Ohio, we are not doing very good. And if you look at the world, last time we were 17th in the world in education. And we spend more money per pupil than any other country in the world. In my opinion, the students, the parents, and the taxpayers are not getting their money's worth. And I'll finish up with this. As you know, I was told by I go all over the country and speak. And the thing, I called Ohio State, I called the U.S. Department of Education. And I called Ohio School Board, and I was told 4 times in a 10-year period, they changed how they do proficiency ratings. No one's mentioned that. Or no one mentioned the rest here at Riverside until I brought it up. And I heard there's more, and I heard about the canine going through the schools looking, and in the parking lot. Did anybody mention that? I want transparency, oversight, and accountability in our schools. So if you would make sure, and when you make your New Year's resolution, the 5 of you, make sure student safety and education. And let's get our problem at our girls' restrooms fixed also. In that form that was sent out by, it said here, and I'm done here, it said, the safety of our students and staff will always be our top priority. The Riverside Local School District is committed to maintaining a safe and welcoming environment where students can learn and feel.
Thank you.
Come.
Any other public comment?
Talk more than 3 minutes.
Yes. Great. Denise Brewster, soon to be board member. Thank you for including me in the planning and all the information. I sat in on the Bialowski thing, and one of the things that I did hear them say is that, when they have the priorities 1s and 2s, critical conditions, potential critical conditions that need to be addressed, they talked about that there were things that if you get into this job, you may have to do this job because it's a timeliness thing. And, you know, I don't know that any of us are technical enough for that, but I also agree that we need to create that vision. I like the fact that we're gonna do a work session so that we have a concept of where to spend the money and what's, you know, a good use of our tax dollars. But, you know, one of the things that, you know, I feel is I don't want to lose some of this work if it is like a science, you know, the science lab, and you've got a roof that's, you know, really bad and it has to be addressed this summer. I don't want to lose a window to address something that could be as critical. So that would be my only concern, and I don't know, you know, when they list so many things across the board that are priority ones, you know, are there things in 2 that go along with that, is what I'm saying. So I guess we'll hammer it out. We may get to a point where we do need that expertise, you know, of the numbers rep, but we'll see how that goes. And great job. I liked hearing about that, and I know our tech person left, but looks like we're on top of it. Many of the same things we're doing at the county level, which is good. And I got fished once.
I did. I always beat it.
It always, but now I'm really not gonna have that happen again.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, thank you. That brings us to our consent agenda. The first one on the agenda is finance and audit.
Sure, we have a motion to approve the items listed on the finance and audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer, items A through G.
Second.
Thank you. I do want to read our donations. So we had a donation from Delbert Record to Melridge Elementary School, Mentor Rotary to Riverside Drama, Prismed Imaging to Riverside Drama. We had numerous online donations to Riverside Drama. We had a donation from Mary Matern to the Veterans Memorial Fund in memory of Austin Schwank. She also made a donation to the Veterans Memorial, just in general. We had a number of donations to the Riverside Veterans Memorial in memory of Austin Schwank from VFW 336, from Rolling Thunder 336. We had a donation from Parkside Families to the David Baker Memorial Fund, from the American Legion Post 336 to the Veterans Memorial Fund, from American Legion Riders number 336 to the Riverside Veterans Memorial Fund. We had some gardening materials from Aaron and Brian Bong for the Riverside Veterans Memorial. We also had some of the same from Sue Webster for the Riverside Veterans Memorial, from Vanessa Valdiva to the same Veterans Memorial, and we had an anonymous donation of $1,000 to the Veterans Memorial Fund. So I would really like to thank those individuals and groups for that was a lot of donations for them, so that's really great. There's no other discussion on any items on the finance agenda. Can we call the roll?
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Motion carried. That brings us to personnel.
Sure, we have a motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A through F.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on any of those? Hearing none, can we call the roll?
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Motion carried. Brings us to curriculum and programming.
Make a motion to approve the items listed on the curriculum and programming consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A through C.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hack. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any, could you please call the roll?
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Lori Krenisky,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. Brings us to buildings, grounds, and operations.
Motion to the, sorry, you
Do we need to fill in?
Yeah, we have for the first part of the tax budget.
Right, so that is-
Officially
Okay, so should I say we're modifying item A to be at 8 o'clock on January 6th, followed by the organizational meeting at 8:15? And then you said some motion, may I have a second?
Second.
That'll be in the board conference room,
Yeah.
more than likely.
Right.
Somebody sent out an invite,
We will get it on the
so I
board
remember it's on
calendar.
my
So
calendar.
I need to, you need to approve the motion. So the motion was to modify item A, as I stated earlier, and we had a second,
I was
so,
not with that.
Okay. Tom Heck.
aye?
Linda Rossi.
Aye.
Lori Krenisky.
Aye.
Scott Fisher.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, now a motion to approve the items listed on the Buildings and Grounds consent agenda items A through F, as recommended by the superintendent. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Terrific, thanks very much. Any discussion?
Who was the second? I know that
And if there is no discussion, can you call the roll, please?
Did you get the second? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Tom Heck.
Aye?
Linda Rossi.
Aye.
Lori Krenisky.
Aye.
Scott Fisher.
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. So that brings us to Board of Education updates. Yes, Ms. Grassi?
So first, I just want to address and sort of contradict if Mr. Music thinks that taxpayers are not getting what we pay for in light of Dr. Malacker's presentation. I would beg to differ and say I think this district is absolutely getting what they pay for, if not more. So heads and tails over what they pay for. That was number one. Number two, I just want to make mention of the fact that this is Mr. Hack's last meeting. Been a long time, Tom.
It has been a long
We've
time.
sat on this at this table together. I've enjoyed our time together. I've learned some new things from you. I've learned what the word fakakta means.
We still use that one.
I still use it to this day. It is like the best word ever.
For real.
And I just want to make sure that you are, successful in all the things that you do going forward. Good luck at the ESC, and what keeps you up at night?
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. I had some things as well, but I'd like to go last. So is there anybody else that has a?
I do. I want to just say that, Tom, we've had the pleasure of working together for the last 10 years, and I would say that over 10 years, we haven't every single day seen eye to eye, but I would say that you are hands down one of the best board members I've ever had the honor to work with. You are reasonable, and you are thoughtful, and you've just been a really wonderful board member. I feel like I've learned a lot from you over the last 10 years, and so I appreciate what you've done for this district and appreciate what you've done as a board member, and hope we'll see you around in circles, and excited that you're still going to be serving our community.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. I learned so much from you and good boardmanship and just how to be a good board member, and we promise to keep on being plucky
What a
as we
great
carry
word.
on into
What a
the
great
future.
word.
So, thank you.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank
We're
you.
going to keep a pivot table.
Before you go, I think we would like to steal the thunder. I know we're not board members, but we do have a couple things that we'd like to share as well. First of all, before Dr. Walker goes, I do want to say
So true to Candace fashion, this was all
Yes.
Tito, not me.
the question I have is, given the stories that I've had the short experience to have, the first, what's in the box?
What is in the box? It's the key.
Is that the toilet paper or is that the key?
That's a good question. I can't remember exactly, but I think we were getting ready for an assembly or something, and the boxes contained something that supported the assembly. So
I think it's a toilet paper.
I do too.
That's not the story I'm going with.
that's not the story that's going to live on. But that's probably the case. But I'll leave the story of the for all those who don't know until after the cameras on.
So, all joking aside, when we started to have the conversation, Tom, about who would give this final hurrah to you, I immediately jumped up because I echo so much of what has already been said. 12 years of service. During those 12 years, we faced a financial crisis. We navigated a global pandemic. We survived contentious negotiations. But we also passed a levy. We built 2 new schools, saw programs and athletics rebuild. And now we get to see the fruits of the labor that we've put in and you have been a part of for so long. Our scores are rising, the culture is good here, athletics are thriving, and programs and opportunities are expanding for our students at Riverside. And that is something that you have been a part of. And I, again, will echo what was said already. I feel very lucky to have been or to work under you, I guess, because technically you were my boss. You called us out when you saw gaps in what we did, but you also gave credit when credit was due, and I very much appreciate that. Thank you for always seeking to understand, to ask questions, to be thoughtful. While we may not have always seen eye to eye or been in agreement, I always found our discussions to be thought-provoking and to help me to expand my thinking. So from me personally, thank you so much for the journey that we've been on. When you start to reflect, you go, holy moly, it's been a lot of stuff in 12 years. But I know that I'm speaking for all of us in central office and for all of the school community. Thank you for your service to our district. I know and we know that you always have the true interest of our students at heart. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
As a small token of our appreciation, it does not make up for 12 years of service. For sure.
Do you like yellow ribbon?
I do. Tie a yellow ribbon on that old tree.
We also have cake and cookies afterwards, but. You know.
After I close the meeting.
Yeah, after, not during.
Should I have these now? Or?
Please.
Okay. Terrific.
Terrific, there's another word. I wrote it down.
That's terrific. Linda, that's just terrific. All right. I'm going to read it first. There we go. So everybody can see it, and then you probably already saw that.
I love it.
That is absolutely fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, that was in color.
Terrific. All the buildings. So I have something to remember this by my tenure here. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. And so now it's my turn to say a few things. And so I'm a little discombobulated, but I've created a mess. So we're just going to hide that mess for a moment. So I just want to say, you know, what an honor it has been to have served on the school board 3 terms. I do want to thank the community, the voters, for actually trusting me with their vote and their confidence in serving and representing them on the board. It has been a terrific experience overall. And I just kind of, so first of all, many of you might be wondering, some of you have not been here. Surprisingly, not all of you come to every single board meeting. Shocking. So what does plucky mean? Where did that come from? So plucky, by definition, I looked it up. I knew kind of what it meant, but I didn't have the actual words. But plucky is having I forget. It's basically having courage and spirit in the face of adversity is what it is. And that is Riverside. You know, you mentioned some of the things about in my tenure. So the very first thing, my very first meeting after I got elected to the board was to cut the budget 15%. Literally. We sat down, we went through it, through the budget, we cut the budget by 15%. And yet, some districts probably would have collapsed, right? But not us. You know, we figured it out. We figured out where to cut, how to preserve education as best we could, how to keep other things online. And then frankly, we had to depend on the community to step up a little bit more, especially the parents, to step up and keep other things going. And you know what? They did, you know, because Riverside was worth the investment. We did have some contentious negotiations, but we were able to get through that. We were able to earn the credibility of the people in the district, the voters in the district, and we passed a couple of levies, operational, and then we shortly thereafter passed the levy to build the 2 new elementary schools, which is a big task, bringing on 2 elementary schools at the same time. Very big task, but we did that because we were plucky, absolutely. And then literally the year we brought the schools online was the fall of 19. And in March of 2020, we had the shutdown and the COVID fiasco is how I refer to it as. But you know what? We did some innovative things. We did have classes. The first year, actually, it's everybody. We locked down, we shut down in the rest of 2020. But in 2021, 2022, we did something innovative. We had a choice for the parents. You could either do online or you could still come to classes. Most districts didn't do that. They were one or the other, and most of them were frankly online. But we provided an option for our students and for our families. And that was plucky, very plucky. And now we're in a situation where we are moving forward. And I understand your comments and your comments, and from the outside looking in, you're like, what in the world? Why does it take so long to get things done? And that's just the environment part of it is just the environment of government and large institutions. It's not the same as putting a roof on a house, right? It takes time, it takes planning, you're spending other people's money. So you've got to be sure that you're making as good a decision as you can, and it's more painful and longer process than anybody wants. But if you're going to be fiscally responsible, I mean, that's part of the process, and it does push the schedule out to the right. So that's the unfortunate answer, and it's not good. And I do think, sir, I can't remember your last name, but when we are done with our buildings, people are going to look at Riverside, and I think it's cool as hell, because we have taken the building and we're gonna make it a show place for our district, and people are gonna say, my God, we've got this and that, but look at that. Every building's a time capsule, and this is gonna be a great time capsule to 1949. It is absolutely gonna be pay homage, and we're gonna look at Riverside. Every single Riverside graduate for this foreseeable future is gonna walk through this very building. Every Riverside graduate is gonna have the experience of walking through this building. I think that's pretty cool, being a Riverside graduate myself.
I hope so, but how long is it gonna take? That's
I
my hope.
hear you.
Because what I heard was blah, blah,
If we
blah,
could snap
blah,
our
blah,
fingers and do it,
nothing will be done.
if we could snap our fingers and do it well, we would. Guess what? We can't snap our fingers and do it well. It's going to take some time and effort. But I did want to also say that, I served a lot of folks, right? So Jim Kalis and I, the whole time, that was here. Dan Wayner, who stepped into a really horrible situation, taking on maintenance, and by God, he was night and day compared to what we had before. So I haven't seen Dan in a while, but Dan, thank you very much. Chuck Schlick is not here. I served with him for the whole tenure, and Melissa and Cheryl, you've been here the whole time as well. And so that is all terrific. I did want to recognize the other board members who are not here, going way back, so to Mitch Calley and Rich Radcliffe, Jack Miley, and Steve Jeffries as well.
Pam Johnson, too.
And Pam Johnson, thank you. I forgot about Pam. But all those folks, it was terrific serving with them as well. And Belinda, you were on the board before me, and you're staying on the board after me. So thank you, and I too learned a ton from you, and I thank you very much. And Jen, we've served together a long time as well, and I appreciate all the opportunity to work with you. And Laurie, less time, but terrific. Thank you for all the things that you have done. And Scott, even less time, but you have taught me a lot as well. And I know that as I leave the board, things are in good hands. And Denise, thank you for stepping up, and you obviously earned the trust of the voters. So lots of opportunity here as well. I did want to thank Dr. Rottino for stepping on board. And here's, I'm going to go long just because, why not? Just because I can. So here's the deal. It's plucky, right? It's having the quality of having spirit and courage in the face of adversity, right? And we're going to have, there's going to be some adversity. But what I'd like to point out is that the board, we certainly have differences on the board. But we've got to, my recommendation is figure out those things that unite you, right? And I go back to the process of the interview for the superintendent, right? Dr. Kalis was leaving, and we needed to find a new solution, or somebody else to take the reins, right? So anyway, we went through the process, we went through the second interviews, and I was definitely leaning your way, but I wasn't quite there after the second interview, and we were kind of at a crossroads. We were befuddled in how to move forward, and I can't remember who did what, right? But both of you helped solve the problem. One of you, and I can't remember which one, suggested, hey, let's have a third interview, which we did. And the other said, let's just have it with each board member individually, along with Lori, who's our president, and with Gary, right? And I will tell you that having that one-on-one interview made the decision clear, right? I voted for you without hesitation, right? But it's those things. It doesn't matter where the good ideas come from. If there's a good idea, take it, run with it, use it, all for the betterment of Riverside. And really, what we are focused on, in my opinion, what really made me run for the board to begin with, and what has kept me on the board, is this. It's the ticket to the future. This is, believe it or not, my high school diploma from Riverside. It's a lot different than it is today, there's no doubt. But it's a ticket to the future. This is my ticket to the future. And we have got to make sure that when students come through here and they get their ticket to the future, it's the best ticket to the future they can possibly have. They have the best experience that they can possibly have, and they're going out into the world to be successful Americans who are willing to take on the workforce, who are ready to be self-governing, who are ready to take on the mantle of what it takes to be an American and move not only our community forward, but our state and our nation as well.
Amen.
But this is our ticket to the future, and I'm so proud to have been working with all of you. So, Mike, thank you. Gary, thank you. Chris, thank you. And I'm sure I'm missing some other folks, but now I've gone long, and I'm going to bring it to a close. But again, thank you so much. Truly an honor, and I'm very humbled to have been here. Thank you very much.
Any other topics for Board of Education update? All right, so that brings us, next meeting announcement is January 6th at 8 a.m. for the tax budget hearing, and then January 6th at 8:15 a.m. for the organizational meeting. I make a motion to adjourn at 9:18 p.m. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Rossi. And can you call the roll, please?
Lori Krenski,
Aye.
Lynn Grassi,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
and I'll let Mr. Hack.
Aye. There you go. Thank you.
Motion carried, and there are cookies. So please,
done.
and